Hello guys, welcome back to another Nioh 2 video. This is just a very quick video today before we get back to the big build videos. This one's just an update to my Sword Assassin build, as a lot of people are asking about how it performs with EIE Quick Draw stacked onto the armor, as that video, like most of the builds so far, are templates, meaning we cover the playstyle, armor, spirit guardian, skills and soul cores, stats, that sort of stuff, but none of them are really optimized in terms of transferring gold inheritables and specific skill damage onto all of the armor. Also, I've changed a couple of things with this build and I thought I'd just make an update video, so if you haven't seen the last video, I suggest watching that, as that will cover the build in greater detail. Right now I'll just explain the changes and show you it with fully optimized stats. So in terms of the changes then, I've replaced the 3-piece Kingos with 4 pieces of Tosa, as the direct boost to skill damage from the 5-piece bonus is slightly more consistent than the backstab damage bonus. I've also changed the main katana to Wave Swimmer, for the Warrior of the West 3-piece bonus to Tiger Sprint damage, which isn't essential, you don't need that, it's just something that I use if I ever play a multiplayer with this build, as Tiger Sprint is a skill I use a lot when running through the mission before getting to the boss. Now another thing that's changed is specifically for the one-shot mode. If you watched the previous video, you know that the build was split into 2 playstyles, one-shot mode and safe mode. In safe mode, we're still using the same things as before, with the Itakuri Spirit Guardian and making use of Guardian Spirit Talismans for the crowd control ability, as well as all the same cores of Karakasa, Umbrella and Magatsu. Where things change however is in the one-shot mode. I use this mode specifically when farming bosses, so for this, I now change the Spirit Guardian to Tenjin Kujaku. This is because now that we're using Tosa's set, we can only assign one skill to a stance in order to get that 15% boost to skill damage. This is where I put EIE Quick Draw and attach the Raging Strike skill modifier to it. Tenjin gives us one of the only major attack buffs that stack with Carnage Talisman. To activate this buff pre-fight, we need to be in high stance, use any Amrita Crystal to gain some Amrita, which activates the buff. We can then stack up Carnage Talisman as normal, paralyze the enemy alongside Weakness Talisman and literally one-shot them, with the exception of a very small handful of endgame yokai bosses that just take a couple more hits. The soul cores I'm running on Tenjin are Magatsu Warrior alongside Tesso to try and squeeze out as much damage as possible into the EIE Quick Draw, but I've also added Kasha, which I literally just finalized into the build just now, so it's not in the footage, but what it will do is give us a speed boost to our movement after we've popped an Amrita Crystal, allowing us to get behind the enemy as fast as possible after applying our Paralysis and Weakness Talisman. So now we can take a look at the optimized stats. There are only 2 things that could make this build do more damage than it currently is. One of those things would be if I had been in the Honda clan for more than 2 weeks and received the stat bonuses from doing so, which would actually be extremely significant. We're talking about 20% increase to skill damage that we're missing from that, due to me always switching clans for the builds. The other increase would be from leveling the weapon much further than it currently is. The biggest way to do this would be to find a level 170 weapon or a level 170 soul core, and with a 170 soul core we could soul match that to a corrupted weapon, and then soul match that corrupted weapon with our main weapon. Obviously 170 stuff is extremely hard to find, and all I found is 1 piece of armor with it that I'm currently using on another build. Other than that, let's take a look at the optimized stats. So on the weapon we have EIE Quick Draw damage. Every other stat you see next isn't going to increase the one-shot mode damage potential, but it's for the benefit of the safe mode. So paralysis and paralysis accumulation, block when in critical, if you're using Raging Strike and don't manage to kill the enemy, this is useful, and a comfort skill of life drain on melee kill for general mission running. On our Warrior of the West bow speed up, movement speed whilst aiming, key damage, range damage and damage bonus familiarity. On our headpiece, key, life, other realm resistance, followed by EIE Quick Draw and attack increase. Now take note, this is where the end game optimization comes in. Once we're done with the stats, I'll elaborate on how to get these for those who don't know. So let's quickly finish up looking at the rest of the stats. For our chest piece, untouched ninjutsu. For our paralysis items, life increase, elemental damage taken reduction, damage taken at critical, which synergizes with Raging Strike, then EIE Quick Draw damage and attack increase. On the gloves, that inheritable is the only thing that I haven't changed, as there isn't anything else I can roll that will further increase damage optimization, but EIE Quick Draw damage and attack increase followed by untouched ninjutsu. Keep in mind the attack and EIE Quick Draw damage can roll natively on gloves, but for the skill damage I believe they need to be light armor, which these gloves are. On the waist, dodge key consumption, life increase, running speed, dash key consumption at critical, and attack increase and EIE damage. For the boots, running speed, tenacity, which isn't as important as I thought it was in the last video. Basically I thought that Raging Strike would kill you without this skill, as it would drain your health to 0, but it doesn't, it drains it to 1 HP, so you don't need this, but I still run it due to how often we're at critical with this build, so any fire damage I might accumulate whilst in critical won't kill me. Dodge key consumption, faster winded recovery, and of course attack and EIE damage. For our accessories, the exact same rules on both of life increase, melee damage to paralyzed enemies, paralysis accumulation, and elemental damage taken reduction. So in regards to the inheritables of attack and specific skill damage on all of our armor pieces, usually they are only found on gloves, but it is possible to inherit these attributes onto your armor. You'll need at least one of the skill damage or attack increases to be an orange inheritable. This will allow you to permanently fix it as a main stat onto the gear, and then you can add the other as a basic inheritable. If you are new to the game and unfamiliar with how inheritables work, or specifically this method of skill and attack inheritables on armor, there are plenty of guides online that I suggest you look at, but a quick summary would be heading to the Nioh subreddit and finding people to trade with. Trading in this game is essentially heading to a dedicated location between you and another person. They kill themselves in a specific spot, you find their revenant, and then farm it for the item you need, which they should be wearing when they die. Typically this will be a pair of gloves with either attack increase or specific skill damage. You then maximize the familiarity of this piece of armor alongside the piece of armor you want to transfer it to, and then soul match them. Another way to try and get these gloves is to just craft basic light armor gloves in the hopes of getting a pair that has an inheritable skill on it. Now this isn't a solid way to farm something that you're looking for specifically, as it's very hard and the item needs to be the same rarity as the item you want to transfer it to, in this case divine gear, meaning you're going to be using all your divine fragments to do this. But one thing it is good for is randomly finding inheritables for other weapons or builds, meaning you can just send these to the storehouse for later, so you can use them for later builds or weapons. But most commonly you can use them to trade with other players who need these rolls, and they can drop something for you that you need via the revenant farming method. You can also gamble for gloves by spending your glory at the hidden tea house, but please don't do this. It's such a waste of glory for such a low chance of getting anything you want. You want to save your glory for buying crafting materials. I spent most of my glory on materials to craft glue in order to raise my familiarity faster when transferring all these stats, and even that felt like a waste due to how easy it is to raise your familiarity anyway. But the point is, at least I got something for my money, which most likely wouldn't be the case if you spent all your glory on gambling. Anyway, that's the update to the build, guys. I'm working on more builds that should be out soon. For those who didn't really like the last build, I know how it is. That's usually why I avoid gimmicky one-shot type of builds, because they're not applicable to everyone. So the next few builds will be easy entry while still being very strong. So until then, guys, please stay safe and take care.